And so I would say yes, on the basis of what those of us who are within our 40s and less than 40s, and then our lives have been in this particular enterprise over the last 30 years, based on what we've read, I think that democracy has been good. But for many, the question would be, is being good for who and how? And that is why I think the president's point about democracy is threatened is a valid point. But we need to look at why. And for me, the reasons are not far-fetched. First of all, we see our democratic institutions getting weaker rather than stronger. We see people losing confidence and trust in our democratic structures rather than building confidence and trust in these structures. If you were to ask so many people on the streets, people would tell you we are tired of this NDC MPP business. If you ask people about the judiciary, increasingly people are having less confidence and trust in the judiciary, and it is the same for Parliament. So if this is the kind of situation we find ourselves in, then of course we should be concerned that our democracy is increasingly being threatened. And of course, Professor Enin talked about, the thuggery in our politics. In the last elections, 8 or so people killed as a result of their, interest in taking part in the democratic processes. We see the extent of money, the monetization of our politics. We see the extent to which it takes just the appointment of the president, not your qualification, not your competence, not your skills, but the appointment by the president to all of a sudden become wealthy. And I believe that the president should also be concerned about these. And he is better placed to right many of these than a lot of us, even though we all have a collective responsibility. And so, if we hear about almost $3 billion going into corruption, $3 billion going into corruption every year, and yet we have national service personnel who are not being paid for months of less than 600 Ghana cedis a month. We have, contracts that we all know are cooked and figures inflated. And yet we have young people recruited into things like NAPCO and so on, and they go on for months without pay. We have, young people who are struggling, and last week or so you read to all of us the allowances and the fat salaries and so on and so forth that people are earning. This is not sustainable. And I think that, as the president said, it is good that he recognizes it. And I believe that steps must be taken to begin to improve the structures that will serve as the pillars for our democracy. Otherwise, what we have now certainly is not sustainable, but of course, better than going back to the military era.